Clark, I mean, you've worked with several of them.
Yeah.
Which is your favorite Chris?
I mean, I have an implicit bias with the Chris Evans Captain America character.
I mean, yes. I mean,
in that my character was deeply in love with him.
That's
ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage a man so nice his parents gave him 2 first names. It's the incredible Clark Gregg. And Clark, you've requested that Dean Tolson stay. May I ask why?
I just thought it really raised the possibility of keeping the discourse at a higher level than I was going to take it down.
But, like, Clark, you came to play today. Like, our producers asked what you wanted to talk about, and you said AI, the election, and what else? AI, the election, and distortions of late-stage capitalism. So what do you want to start with?
I think that was my press rep must have said that. I don't know about it. Any of those things. I was enjoying. I mean, it seems like all we can really talk about right now is the Supreme Court, because what the fuck?
I mean...
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, Dean. Sorry.
It's
See, that's why I wanted her to stay.
It's so hard because, like, we've expected the Supreme Court to be the adults in the room while electoral politics has been kind of babies about things. And we're at a point in time when we really need some electoral politicians. We need some electoral leadership in this country so that the Supreme Court will stop with their bullshit.
maybe we have to be the change that we need, right?
Okay,
we
I
have
like
to.
that.
We had a wonderful conversation about institutions before we came out here, and I think that we look at these institutions as saviors. But think about Atlanta and Georgia in 2020, right? The reason that Georgia went blue in 2020 was people on the ground. That's grassroots. That was not people litigating election cases in court. That was not the state. That was obviously not the state legislature. Right? It's not the institutions. It's the people who are effectuating the change that they want to see.
I mean, the terrible thing about America, we were talking about it before, is democracy kind of has to be one of your hobbies. Like, to some extent, Americans have to, like, be participatory in public life. Like, we recently went through something in our industry where, you know, we had to step up. We had to go on strike and say that we were going to put aside. We all lost a year of our career drawing a line in the sand. Like, was that hard for you?
It was very hard for me. It was very hard for me, not just in terms of personal hardship, but it was hard for me to watch other people who I've known for 25 years who work in all the other crafts unions, and watching them suffer but still stay in solidarity. And, you know, like in any union action that goes on for a while, people started to buckle. They started to flinch. And at the same time, it felt to me like we were seeing something that's happening everywhere. It wasn't just about us at all. We just seemed to be a very visible frontline fight against companies that are working not for what's best for this particular art form or business in the long run, but what serves the investor class. How do we gut this industry? Hollywood was working fine until they started chasing these Silicon Valley models.
Truly, like, every time you ask yourself why TV and movies are bad, the answer is because they are trying to make it a Silicon Valley, like, you know, maximize
the
disruptor.
Two main companies that we work for,
Yes.
Two of the main companies are Amazon and Apple, and neither of them need this business.
But I did feel truly ridiculous when we were at a point in time when, like, the loud crying voice for labor in America was, you know, us. You know, mimes and silly men.
We're in big trouble.
Yes.
But in the past, it's always been, oh, really? Poor actors and TV writers, really? Are you suffering? But in this particular moment, I think people were able to see the numbers and see, oh, no, like every other business, the middle class has been gutted from this. Most people who you think are making a great living can't afford their insurance.
Like, truly, this country used to be good at making cars, and we are not good at making cars anymore. And we've been good at making TV shows and movies for a long time, and that's given us a lot of power internationally. And like, our government is letting this industry be torn apart. Like, one thing specifically, talk about what AI means for creative work, because it feels speculative and weird, but it also...
No, this is something that I actually came to learn about. I on the picket line, I was stopped a bunch because they said, there's a rumor that you have worked in a superhero franchise.
Yes.
That means you probably are at the cutting edge of that technology. Have you been scanned?
Yeah.
And I said, I've been scanned multiple times. You walk into a little dome, there's 1,000 cameras in there, and all of a sudden there's a little digital you that they can do whatever they want with. And in the past, it's been they'll use it in a car crash or something, and you're kind of glad they have it. But at a certain point, the union walked away from the union said, look, we're very close to a deal. You just have to promise us that you can't use that without our permission in the future, without paying us, and after we're dead. And the corporations walked away from the table. And I thought, oh my God, that's because that's what they wanted.
I mean, and Franita, it is so scary to have all of these new innovative ways of changing our industry that doesn't have settled law about it right now, where you really can, and like a background actor can go in, sign something they didn't read, and then a corporation can use their likeness forever. Like,
So change is the only constant, right? And so AI has changed every field. It's even changed the delivery of legal services. And so I think everyone is being forced to think through how that technology changes your day to day and changes your ability to learn a living. But I will say just listening to your exchange, one of the things that I took from everything that happened in your field is the beauty of the collective, right? Like it's just a lesson that translates across fields, right? The change that you can effectuate if you stick together. Is a theme that very much resonates in our system of elections, right? When we talk about all of the change that we need, whenever you focus on the individual, it's very hard to get things done. And the country has become very individualistic, and I think the strike reminded everybody of what you can do when you stick together.
Dean Tolson, one of the cool things about the strike was that Chris Pine might be there. And do you think if more elections involved Chris Pine maybe voting at people's polling place, that would improve election turnout?
I don't know if he's my favorite Chris.
All right, let's do this. Favorite Chris?
I don't know.
Okay. Clark, I mean, you've worked with several of them.
Yeah.
Which is your favorite Chris?
I mean, I have an implicit bias with the Chris Evans Captain America character.
I mean, yes. I mean,
in that my character was deeply in love with him.
Okay. So tell us about tell us about that. Was that part of your truth in the performance?
You're trying to get me really written out forever. Yes, I mean, I say I watched you while you were sleeping. I had some design.
Oh, yeah.
I had some design input on your costume. There's some kind of deep crush.
Look, this is the kind of passion that AI can never achieve.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So tell us about you have a new movie with the amazing Jane Squibb that is coming out. And everyone, I had a friend who saw it at a festival and she said it's amazing.
It's a gorgeous movie. June Squibb, 95-year-old actress, years on Broadway, and then really started doing films only in the last 7 or 8 years, got nominated for Nebraska.
Alexander Payne knows what he's doing.
Yes, he does. She plays a woman, a grandmother who's widowed, who's very close with her grandson. He helps her with her computer. It's all very familiar. And then she gets a call from him saying that he's been in a terrible accident. He's hurt somebody. They need $10,000 right away. And she immediately sends it off.
Yeah.
And of course, it had nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
And myself and Parker Posey, the grandson's parents, we're pretty sure this means she can't take care of herself anymore. She's not doing well. And she turns off her hearing aids and she gets mad. And she decides she's going to go get her goddamn money back.
Oh.
So it's the world's slowest moving action movie.
That sounds amazing, but also you said two words that we can't just move past. This is Pride Month. Parker Posey, what's that like?
I'd known her since the early days of Party Girl in New York, and I had not had the working together experience, and it was all that I could ever have imagined and more.
So when it comes to working with another actor, do you like people who are like Chris professionals? Do you like people who are bringing a little bit of crazy to the game? How does living in the ping pong ball world of Marvel impact you when you come to something smaller like this? What experience are you looking for?
I spent most of my time in something smaller like this.
Yes.
And then did a little kind of beautiful night what's that called? Moonlighting in the kind of superhero world. In every project wants its own form of kind of crazy. You want the people who can eventually turn it off when it's time.
Yes.
And that one, this is a really fast-moving, witty family movie that feels a little Chris Guesty at times.
Yeah.
So I felt really lucky to kind of draft on her fast wit.
Franita, when you hear like stories of interesting crimes like this being turned into movies, do you think it is your obligation as the dean of the USC Law School to start just like a little shop where you guys sell movie premises to actors and producers?
I feel like my obligation is to try to get my students internships and externships in these types of movies.
Yes.
Right? Like that's my obligation. And also,
I
since
think the interns might have made more than the crew.
there you have it. Since Clark and I are new best friends,
Yes.
you have to edit in that Chris Evans is my favorite Chris.
Oh, okay. Fair. But Clark, you've also been doing some writing.
Yes, I worked as a writer a bit. I wrote a movie years ago called What Lies Beneath. I written and directed a couple of films, and recently I had nowhere to put A, my rage at the political scene, and B, how many hours I've spent watching news channels.
Right.
So I've been writing my first play at this advanced stage. It's called Smear, and it's about a political operative.
Oh, like that's so interesting. Clearly it's watching a lot of news, but like what moved you to want to sort of like explore and work around within the political world?
Well, I'd always wanted to write a play. It's what I started out doing, and I kind of started really writing in earnest here in town and really worked as a screenwriter a lot. And it just felt like one of those things like, good Lord, I better hurry up if I'm going to do that. And there was an idea I had about somebody who's really jaded, part of the system, a system that's so cynical, and is since this guy's been canceled, essentially, he shows up on election eve when a shoe-in Democratic incumbent on the eve of the election seems to have shown up in a blurry cell phone video on TikTok, naked in a hotel hot tub with an underage girl. And nothing is what it seems, and it's just pulling the thread of a giant conspiracy that may or may not mean the end of democracy.
Well, I mean...
Sounds very realistic.
We were actually talking about this in the green room, that you were saying a lot of the difficulty with democracy right now is us not being able to deal with social media. Like, how do you think that impacts
the 24-hour news cycle? People can't pay attention long enough to really appreciate the severity of different controversies.
Yeah.
Right. So even this story, it will be a 24-hour news story, maybe 48 hours. Right. And before we move on to the next thing, because we have a constant need for new information that wasn't there before. I mean, we lived in a time before, I'm dating myself, but it was like, a handful of stations.
Yeah.
And then... And now you can literally find a news station that caters to whatever your political preference is. There's no pushback.
Yes. And one that will radicalize your parents in some direction that you never wanted to happen. Did it give you a greater sense of strength to take control of a narrative about something like that happening? Like, because I think it makes us all feel really scared to know that there is this infinite possibility for things to be faked and manufactured and all of that. Having a narrative of your
during
own.
the strike, I got a call saying, listen, this is very last minute, but we need somebody for the union to go to testify in front of Congress.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, how can I help? And they're like, no, it would be you. Yeah. And it was about AI. And there was a piece of legislation called the Data Privacy Act. And they briefed me on the plane. I felt so cool and so scared. And I went in front of a congressional committee about this particular bill, which the purpose of which is that one would own, and this is citizens, so much of our voice data, our fingerprints, all that stuff is out there now. And that the idea being that unless you can own
commercial use of likeness.
That this is a backdoor way, exactly right, to get all the things that the companies either were or weren't going to give us at that point.
Right.
And they said, listen, here's a commercial that Tom Hanks did for some rando insurance company, except Tom Hanks didn't do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this certainly had the attention of the Congress people, because they're very aware that a deep fake thing could happen to them at any moment. And to go to what you said, it doesn't have to be true. It doesn't even have to be very true.
Yeah.
They're getting very, very believable. Mm-hmm. And by the time it's been pulled off and disproven, it's like
too late.
It's like the retraction on page 6. It will have already been through the 2 news cycles, and you will never be able to reach 75% of the people who ingested that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's so scary, and it's hard not to feel powerless, you know?
I mean, I do.
Well,
because it seems to be happening. The reading I did on that terrifying trip is all of the companies that are developing this AI, the CEOs of all of those companies, all of them signed a letter saying it was more dangerous than nuclear war and that they don't exactly know what it's going to become. Today it came out that Facebook shut down their AI thing a couple of years ago because the AI developed its own private language that they didn't understand.
It's so crazy. And when people talk about sort of like creatively generated stuff from ChatGPT, just sort of realizing it's just theft. It is just a machine broad scale stealing from a bunch of people, and we act as though it's impossible to figure out where it came from. A couple of months ago, I did stand up for the Democratic House members, and I had to just be around them while they were doing their messaging meetings. And I went to the meeting on AI, and there came this horrifying moment when an amazing, hardworking member raised her hand and asked the head of technology from the White House, "So who regulates this? Is this Justice Department? Do we create a new department? Does every department do this themselves?" And the lady from the White House was like, "You guys have to figure that out." And just like the chill throughout that room of people having a huge task that they don't know how to deal with.
I need to push back a little bit on the fear, though.
Okay.
So this is technology that can be abused.
Hope is coming
yes,
in a
I'm
laser,
coming.
ladies and gentlemen.
But there's also a lot of opportunity here. So one thing we're doing at the law school is we're trying to teach our students how to use this technology responsibly and ethically, right? So it is a tool that you use. It is not a replacement, right? You do not ask ChatGPT to write your brief, right? But if you are working on your outline and you need help filling in your outline and then you go from there, okay, right? Like you don't want to use the technology in a way where you're representing that this is your work when it's something you've stolen off the internet. But to the extent that it helps you to brainstorm through ideas or, just even more importantly, AI can help us democratize the delivery of legal services.
Yeah.
Right? If a poor person should not have to hire a lawyer to fight a ticket, right? If ChatGPT can help with that, or if there's some way of using AI to deal with sorting through various rules and regulations to help someone understand the law, that is a good thing. It's just that we see something new and we get scared because we're used to people abusing it. Yeah. And we have to, it goes back to norms. We have to train ourselves to understand that this is something that assists us. It's not a replacement.
Okay, but I'm not pushing back on your hope.
Course,
I don't want to be the hope pusher backer on her. But this goes to my distortions of late stage capitalism thing, and maybe I'm just going to become Marxist right here and now. But look at Boeing, okay? Yeah. Boeing they change who's watching the safety stuff to drive down the costs to look better for their stock price. And all of a sudden the doors are flying off. Yeah. And you see that in every business in this country. So you've got this incredibly powerful tool that seems designed to eliminate members of the workforce.
It's
hard to feel safe.
Are you telling me that America's biggest corporations being incapable of looking more than 3 months in the future is a bad thing?
No.
Okay, you're right.
I think that if we can prove that AI is just supposed to be a tool, we show how people are indispensable.
Yeah.
Right? It is supposed to assist people, not replace people.
No, this is always my line when people are like, "Aren't you scared about it taking your job as a writer?" It's like, it will take the shitty jobs. Right. Like, AI can 100% write an award show. It can 100% write all of the tosses for an award show, but it can't make something good,
That was the main thing I got caught up short by a conservative member of that congressional meeting. He said, "So if it can make better stuff than what you guys are making, shouldn't it? Shouldn't it be able to? If they can do that better and cheaper?" And I thought, well, that's a really good question because I don't know if they can make it better. I suspect they can't. But what I'm really afraid of is the idea that they turn it over and it creates this kind of soulless facsimile, and we don't really see it happening until we're soulless too.
But also, shouldn't we be better at seeing the soulless facsimiles? And honestly, I don't know that the execs in charge necessarily now would distinguish between it, but I think our viewing audiences are going to understand what crap that looks like all the crap I've ever seen before and something that looks new and interesting looks like. Which brings me to this question, which is entirely unpolitical and entirely about your creative process. But how is it different shaping a story on the stage versus on the screen?
A lot more talking. These days with cell phones and texts and everything, you have to really for me, it was difficult to come up with a scenario where people are actually generally talking it out.
Yeah.
There's just not that much of it these days. There's a lot of this is the video. I'm looking at it of you on an iPad. You know what I mean?
So as an actor who is also a writer, what do you think, there have got to, what are your worst habits and what are your best habits that you bring to the process of writing as an actor? Does that make sense to you as a question?
Yeah, 100%. Luckily, I know what's really fun to say.
Yes.
I know when it's fun to have subtext.
Yes.
I know from being inside stories, that stuff.
Yes.
But I guess I'm lucky because the process of writing is so insanely isolated and lonely.
Yes.
And luckily, I can sometimes go operate in a more kind of social environment as an actor.
Yes. I mean, it's good to get that energy back, but then you have to go be sad and alone because that's the only place creativity happens.
Sad.
But to unsad us, would you like to play a game?
Yes, please.
Okay. Franita, you also have to play.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
She's the reputable one. She didn't get a choice.
She doesn't have a choice. She's here.
Dean.
I mean,
She's a dean.
She's essentially my co-host at this point in time. All right. Clark, it is Hollywood in 2024, and I think we'd be beautiful fools to think that AI won't be playing a part in TV and film going forward. And we all know that you've had a full body scan because of all of the superhero-y things. And which is why we're playing a game that's called Role of an Afterlifetime. We're going to present you with things after you die. Do you provide consent for your likeness to be used in this work? Okay?
Shoot.
The Newer Adventures of Even Older Christine. You play a cyborg version of your character, Richard, who has had his consciousness uploaded to a synthetic humanoid shell, which is still matching wits with his ex-wife. Julia Louis-Dreyfus will play Christine because that woman does not age. Do you consent to doing that project?
1,000% immediately.
All right.
It's like Blade Runner with ex-wives.
Yes. No one respects New Adventures of Old Christine enough. It's like really
Ladies
good.
in airports do.
Ugh. I mean, one of our great Wanda Sykes vehicles, of many. Phil, a gripping drama about the daily life of your character from Marvel, Agent Coulson, as he discovers he has stiff person syndrome, that thing that Celine Dion has, is played entirely realistically, but somehow is nominated for and wins Best Television Musical or Comedy at the Golden Globes.
You know, I'd be tempted to go with it, but I'm worried about the porn title that stiff person syndrome becomes.
Okay, does it change it if you know that Celine Dion comes on as herself for the last 5 minutes of it, 90s TV movie style?
My heart will go on.
Okay. The Human Stain 2, an HBO adaptation for TV that is basically a Muppet Babies version of the 2003 Robert Benton drama starring Anthony Hopkins and Nicole Kidman, based on the Philip Roth novel. You return as Nelson Primus, and it's not entirely clear why. Will you do The Human Stain 2?
No, it's problematic in that Anthony Hopkins is playing a biracial person,
Yes.
and I think it's best left in the past.
That's fair. Like so many things related to Philip Roth, it was interesting then. 29 dresses. You portray the 29th dress in the third movie in the 27 Dresses universe reboot, but your AI avatar is given a lot more creative control than you'd expect, and then, so that's something. Katherine Heigl will star.
And
Okay.
she gets a bad rap.
I didn't like that movie where she was a news reporter in Sacramento. 27 Dresses is good, though.
She's awesome in Suits, though.
The Suits Assance, hey, Franita, the three of us need to get together and put together a soap-procedural, okay?
I mean, what?
This town is hungry for soap-procedurals. Are you in?
In.
Okay. Mean Girls 7, now they're dads. As Craig Heron, a redheaded stepdad who must survive in the animalistic social environment created by other dads at his local CrossFit.
The fur will fly.
Yes, you'll be
As you
topless a
can
lot.
tell-
You'll be topless a lot.
Okay, I'm out.
Okay. All right. Donald Trump in a sympathetic presidential biopic, President DJ, about an alternative history where Donald Trump is both president and a Skrillex-level concert DJ, written by Tony Kushner and Doris Kearns Goodwin, but through ChatGPT.
Is he going to do the dance that looks pornographic?
Yes.
I'm in.
Okay. And finally,
The Skrillex is cultural misappropriation.
will you play Nermal in Garfield 5, Garfield Gets Hysterical, in which Nermal is a loquacious gay writer and comedian trying desperately to finish the script for Garfield 6, Clawing My Way to the Top. It's very Charlie Kaufman and meta, and that's why my AI avatar will tell entertainment reporters when I have to do the film's PR cycle. I didn't write this.
Wait, is this a buddy picture with us?
I think so.
Now
yeah.
I'm in.
I guess I'm playing Garfield.
Please.
All right. Well, that's lovely. You seem committed to most things. I mean,
I don't turn down a lot. It's the life of the life of a character.
What do we need to do to make this a functional holographic will? What do we need to do to make this legally enforceable after Clark is dead?
I'm gonna get scanned again, aren't I?
The only reason he's saying yes is because he'll be dead.
I mean, making money passively is always a good idea. Thank you so much, Clark. Thank you so much, Jon Tolson.
Thank
This
you.
has been
Thank you.
more fun. Thelma hits theaters when?
June 21st. June 21st.
And everybody, I haven't watched it yet, but everybody says it's really, really great.
It's really good. Really good.